Yeah, so Keisha, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is exciting. It really is a full circle moment, and I'm here actually talking to you. You guys got to realize in 2020, I was going to her for advice. So that's how far you can go. You never know how far you can really reach when you like go all out. So thank you for having me here, and thank you to the BOC, all you do for the community.
Thank you, thank you. So could you tell us a little bit about your career prior to being the owner of Peachfuzz?
Right. So what's interesting is that I have a degree in advertising and marketing. And a lot of times people have asked me about the branding for Peachfuzz, all the colors, the visuals, the creative direction on our photography. And that was me. And it was like kind of a full circle moment again, because at the time I tried to get a job in marketing and creative, and it just did not work out for me. It didn't pan out. And I went the safe route, that, as I mentioned in that video, and became a nurse. That was a surprise to a lot of my family. And I went on and did that for about 10 years. And then I also became a nurse practitioner. So I've also worked doing that for a couple of years as well. But now that we started Peachfuzz, and that was my sister in the video, and she's our chief operating officer, integral to the business. I'm able to use those creative skills in this environment. And when I was a nurse, I always felt like I'm a creative trapped in a nursing position, and I still wanted to get that out. So creating Peachfuzz was that opportunity to do that. I love it.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Peachfuzz, the services and products that you guys
Sure.
offer?
So Peachfuzz is initially a business to cater to women of color to remove unwanted hair. Now, this is a topic I know all too well. I started having facial hair at 15. It was embarrassing. It was shameful. I didn't know what to do. I went to my mother. She didn't know what to do. And it was devastating. It was a lot to deal with. And I did all the things, the threading, the waxing, the shaving, and it was really destroying my skin. And then I found laser. One thing about me, I'm going to research and find the answer. And I found laser hair removal in the early 2000s. That's how far back I've been doing this. And it really made a change for my skin. I felt I looked better. I didn't have the hair as much, not at all. And my skin improved greatly. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. But at the time, I did not see any of these businesses owned by people of color. I've always went to European white-owned businesses, and I didn't feel like we were the star of the show. And I wanted to create an environment where someone knew all the nuances to our skin issues, the hyperpigmentation, the ugly bumps, the dark marks, and not only cater to the unwanted hair, but like a holistic approach. Well, I'm seeing you as a person. I know how this can affect someone mentally. It's very challenging. There's customers that come to me that they're putting on tons of makeup. These are executives that are wearing turtlenecks in the summertime. They don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing. So we're able to help them, and I love what we do.
Awesome. It's beautiful. It really is. And I'm just curious, how did you come up with the name for your business? I just always wanted to ask.
You know what? I had several names for Peachfuzz, and well, for the business, this laser business that I wanted to do a couple years ago. And I really had to sit and think about all the things that I loved. I love the color peach. Peach was the first color I painted in my bedroom when I had my first apartment. And I had one name, and a lot of people were like, I don't think you should go with that. And then I thought of Peachfuzz, and I said it to my sister, and she was like, that sounds good. And I told my husband, who's always been so supportive, hey Fred, and he was like, I think that's good. And I was a little nervous about it, and I just said, I'm gonna go forward with it anyway. I think it makes it seem okay. Like, yeah, I have a little bit of hair, and I know where she's going with this, and it softens the situation a bit.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how do you guys market your company? So what type of marketing avenues do you guys use?
Yeah,
Obviously
so
a lot of word of mouth. I see people in the chat asking for
just word of mouth. Exactly. So we really didn't do like any marketing programs. We did just social media. And part of what Ramon was saying too is that when he said trust and wow, like I'm speaking to our customers on social media, telling them, hey, I have this problem too. I understand how you feel. I
Yep.
think when you're reaching people and telling them, hey, I have this too, I know how you feel, it hits different. This is not a
Right.
business just necessarily to make money. We're here our mission is to make women of color, and really any woman who comes to us, feel better about themselves. You're more confident because I know this can be hard to deal with.
Mhm.
So I would go on social media, stories, talking about my own issues, showing before and afters, the wow portion.
Mhm.
And people really related to that. They were like, wow, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know this was for Black skin. And I'm like, yeah, it's for you too. If it's done the right way and by a professional, it can work wonders. And we've shown that time and time again. So I think that was key. And then word of mouth. When you
Right.
treat people well, and one of the things with Black businesses that I've noticed is that I want you to come into my business and feel good and feel catered to. We're not here just to take your money. And no, you come in and we'll get you a cup of water. You don't even have to get that. You're catered to and you feel welcome. And that's part of creating a community, which is important to me.
Very true. Very true. And I can testify, I'm always asked for if I want a cup of water or tea as soon as I walk in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, what's the worst piece of advice you got when you were starting Peachfuzz? The worst.
Yeah. You know what? I had a family member who I told, like, I have this dream, I want to be an entrepreneur. And he was like, why do you want to do that? And I think it's because, you're taking a risk. You don't have a safety net of a job. I had a 6-figure job. I'm quite comfortable. I did not have to take this on. And you have to know what your calling is. And this was my calling. I was like, you know what? I rather fail and said I tried than never to try at all. And you got to know, you also have to know who you're talking to when you're talking about your aspirations and dreams to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone's going to pour into you. Not everybody's going to understand. They're not risk takers. So I think that was that particular case, but I knew what was for me, and this was definitely it. I'm glad I took the chance. Here we are right now.
Yep.
I
too.
Yeah, sometimes I have to pinch myself, like, I can't believe it. I'm actually here.
That's beautiful. Another question, what did you waste the most time on in the beginning when you were starting Peachfuzz?
The most time was wasted on contemplating the business and just, should I do it? Should I not do it? It was like someone playing double dutch, and you're going to jump in. When are you going to jump in? And I said to myself, I have to do this or I'm going to drive myself crazy. I was working as a nurse practitioner and in palliative care and dealing with a lot of old folks near death. And I can imagine their regrets. I never wanted to grow old and say, I never took a chance. I never tried, at least. Like I said, I'd rather fail and say I tried than not to fail, not to try at all. So that was important to me.
That's beautiful. What do you wish you could have spent more time doing?
And that, I think, would be the business aspects. Like when you launch your business, sometimes you get what you ask for and you get success. And having to deal with business taxes and sales tax and W-9s and 1099s and employees, and it's a whole thing. And I'm just blessed that I have my sister who's my operations manager. She's more versed in some of those things than I was, coming from a more corporate background. And what I didn't know, I was smart enough to hire and get an expert to assist me. So I have a virtual CFO, an accountant, operations manager, all those things were set in place immediately.
Very nice, very good.
Mm-hmm.
A question, financing, right? I know one question when I'm meeting with clients, I would say the number one question I'm being asked is, how did you finance your business? I'd love to ask you, how did you finance your business?
Right, that's a good question. I financed the business. It was all self-financed. I went to you too. It was like, hey, can you help me get some money? And just the timing, I guess, wasn't right. And at the time, I also tried to get a loan from Chase. And they said, you're a shoo-in. You make 6 figures, you have assets. This is the bankers actually telling me this. And they came back to me and said, you were denied. And I was crushed. I could have literally stopped right there. I remember crying on my couch, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I said, you know what, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this thing. So I had $10,000 saved. And at the time I had a space, thankfully I had a space that I owned. And I renovated that space and turned it into the studio. I couldn't afford a retail space or a commercial space outside at that time. Plus it was COVID. It was just a risky time at that particular time in 2020. And I just started with that money and renovated and just prayed and hoped that people will come and show up and finance the rest. All my equipment was financed. And I said, well, the worst thing that can happen is I'll just have an expensive piece of equipment and I'll just be lasering myself and my friends, but lo and behold, people came and it was fantastic. We were surprised at the response.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And how do you manage? So you are a business owner, your wife, your mom. How do you manage the work-life balance?
Right. I have a full day sometimes before I even get to work. I have 2 kids, a husband, house. I'm taking my kids to school, making breakfast, making lunches, 2 different directions their schools are in. It's a lot of management, but I feel like when you have a good team, it's easier. And part of having a good team in leadership is to make sure your team knows that they're part of your dream. And as you move forward, they move forward too. I've worked for people that it was all about them. And that does not cultivate loyal staff and professional staff that's going to do their jobs correctly. And when I leave my place of business and I have my staff there, I don't worry because I know they're going to do everything 100%. So I think having a great staff, a team, like I said, my husband has been my backbone. He's been so supportive of me. I wouldn't be here if he didn't encourage me, and also my sister as well. That has all been a part of this journey and really getting me here.
Awesome. And we're going to end. I've had such a great time chatting with you, getting to know you a little bit more. And I'm so happy to, that you're here in front of these people talking about Peachfuzz, because I love it just, as a client. And it also makes me proud as a business counselor.
Right.
But our finale question is, if you could time travel back to day 1 of your startup and have 30 seconds with your former self to communicate any lessons you've acquired with the intention of saving yourself mistakes, mental anguish, and heartache, what would you tell yourself?
I had to cultivate the courage to start this business. I went to therapy. I went to church. I read books. Some of the books that Ramon talked about, I had to develop this this fearlessness to start a business because it's scary. It really is. And I would tell myself to start with where I'm at and what I have. A lot of times we're waiting for the perfect situation, the perfect thing for things to align, and that might never happen. Meanwhile, you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. You have to have faith. And I listen to a lot of podcasts too, and there's so many entrepreneurs that said once they got started, things aligned and doors opened, and it did open for me as well. So have faith that that is going to happen for you. Once you're moving in one direction, things are going to happen. You're going to see. And I would tell myself to be less worried about that and just be more fearless. Do it scared, but just do it.
I love it. Do it scared, but just do it. Thank you, Keisha. Thank you so much for taking this time. And joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You got 2 minutes of my time.